Today I'm going to talk about the Valley of Dust and Fire, a settlement for Darksun. Now, if you look at the tablelands with its 7 city-states, you might notice that it's kind of hemmed in. That on the west, there's this jungle and these mountains that make it hard to get past because the jungle's full of cannibal halflings. And in the east is the Sea of Silt. Now, the Sea of Silt is a sea of dust. You ever recall the Defilers? Every time they cast a spell, they create an area of dust around them. All the plant life within a certain range turns into dust. And the winds have blown that all into the lowlands. The seas of water are gone. And so you have this sea filled with fine powdery dust. And this dust, it makes a barrier against going east. It's really not possible. You can wade into it a little bit. And giants can wade further than people can, so a lot of these islands are inhabited by giants here in the Sea of Silt. And there's wade skimmers, which are basically a wagon with giant wheels and a sail that can sail around in the Sea of Silt in the places where it's not very deep, but you can't go very far out because it gets very deep in places. And the silt, when the wind blows across it, it forms waves, and the wind dies down. The waves stay in place wherever they were when the wind was blowing. And it also picks up fine particles and makes dust storms that make it really hard to navigate. Well, this Valley of Fire, Dust and Fire, tells some more detail about what's in this silt, the Sea of Silt. And so if you go north, there's a chain of islands called the Road of Fires. A lot of these islands have lakes of lava on them. Zoom in on that. See, they have lakes of lava on them. And these islands, the island of Silt here in the Sea of Silt, it's got quite a lot of vegetation on it because there's a really high-level druid there and a tribe of giants that supports him. The Isle of Ash there has a volcano that spews out a lot of ash, just adding to the problem. There's Lake Island, which has a lake. The Isle of Bones is a series of craggy peaks. Find the description here. It's like, okay. By the way, here's a picture that shows how these maps fit together. So you can see on the left is the edge of the Tablelands map, and here's the beginning of the Sea of Silt map. So that's how they fit together. One of the ways you can get by the silk is on a glider. Of course, if you get caught in a dust storm, you're in trouble. And you can drown in this silt. Alright, here it is, the Isle of Silt, and a map of it. This is the island that has the high-level druid and the tribe of giants to protect it. Yeah, the Isle of Bones. Now, the Isle of Bones is a bunch of craggy peaks, very steep to climb up these mountains. Yeah, very steep to climb up these mountains, and each one goes up 400 to 800 feet out of the silt, and they're 100 to 1,000 yards across, away from each other. You know, they look close together on the map, but there's distance between them. Some of them have some plants that grow on their tops. Another feature is the mountains of the sun. These are mountains that stick up out of the silt, and these mountains have some really savage cannibal dwarves on them and some giant spiders. Another feature is the Black Isle. It's an island full of poisonous plants, and there's a lake in the center and a castle there. Another feature is the Silt Archipelago. Find that. Here it is. The Silt Archipelago is a place where water is bubbling up from below in the silt, forming mud flats. And one of them, there's so much water that it sometimes forms a lake. And so at the edges of this lake is a mixture of water and silt that is just too fine to be mud or water. So it's not a place you'd want to go. Here's a map showing some of the different ways you can travel between these mudflats and islands. Some of them are paths that only giants can walk, and some of them are paths that humans can walk because the silt is shallow at that point. Here's a picture of a wave skimmer. The wheels are hollow, and there are slaves inside walking upstairs continuously to drive the wheels, and there's a sail to help it too. And the Vanishing Lake has a 18th level druid who protects it. There's a nice picture of a monster and some people. Okay, so here's a place where there's a city. For some reason, the silt doesn't encroach on the city. It's like something to investigate. There's another mud flat with a lake. But beyond the mountains of the sun and the Black Isle is the Great Ash Storm. For some reason, the winds kick up this big storm and this makes a big barrier to flying or even traveling through to get to the Valley of Dust and Fire, which is the title of this supplement. So, if you keep going, there's the Valley of Dust and Fire, where there's jagged hills. Let's take a look at this. Different terrains, mountains, rocks, badlands, smoking lands, lava plains, lava calderas. Yeah, so volcanism is affected this because there's a lake of lava with an island in the center. Actually, there's more than one island. So this thing is like the maelstrom, if I can get it to focus, is like a whirlpool of lava in the lava that fire elementals come out of. The Iron Citadel is an actual citadel made out of iron, worth a fortune. And there's this island in the center with the causeway is a series of islands that go to it, so you can get to it. And in the center of the island is the city of Ur-Draxa. So here's the city gate to show how big the walls around the city are. They're gigantic. And parts of the city have walls between them. And so here's the city. focused. It's divided in different areas by little walls and big walls, and in the very center is a garden. The Dragon Sanctum. And in the very center of the garden, in a hole, floating in the air, is a black sphere. So, let's draw that again. So, in the heart of the Sea of Silt is an ocean of lava. And in the center of that sea of lava is an island. And the center of that island is a city. And in the center of that city is a garden. And in the center of that garden is a black sphere. Now, this city is the city of the dragon. Now, the dragon is a 30th level dragon. He has, so let me read for you real quick, powers of the dragon. Okay, so he's got 61 plus 10 hit dice. His armor class is -10, and he can only be hit with +2 or better weapons. His Thaco is -3. His claws each do 2d10 plus 15 points of damage. His bite does 4d12 damage. His breath weapon does 25d12 damage. If he swats you with his tail, that's 5d10 damage. He can make a movement rate of 15 or fly at a movement rate of 45. And he has an 80% magic resistance. And he's 30th level in psionics and 30th level in magic use, which means he can cast 7 1st through 7th level spells, 6 8th to 9th level spells, and 4 10th level spells. So this is a really powerful dragon. And not only is there the dragon to worry about, but he's got an entire army in his little city-state here. So, attacking, this is, I think, the most powerful dragon in any D&D. Here's an example of dead forest, which is one of the terrains in the valley that you might encounter. Yeah, it's basically dead forest, like it says. Alright. Now, some of the islands have rocks. Here's an example of a rock cavern. Here's some adventurers. Here's a defiler conjuring something out of a portal, some sort of wolf demon. And here's some sort of adventure on the edge of the Sea of Lava. Here's a map plan for the Iron Citadel, which is a castle made out of iron on one of the islands of the Sea of Lava. It's a base for the soldiers of the dragon. The commander of the Iron Citadel is a 15th level gladiator. Here's a view from inside Darksun, the city of the dragon. One of the people you might meet in there. They have different factions between people in the city. It goes into quite a bit of detail here of the city. Here's a village. Here's a copy of the map, which I already showed you. See it all in one frame here. That's not the dragon. That's one of the Sorcerer Kings who's not made the transformation completely. He's above 20th level, but not quite. Probably around 23rd level. And the palace. And there's some new monsters. The Magma Golem. This is called the Jakar. Kaisharga. This is the men who live in Darksun, the Darksuns. And the men of Ardani, which are basically barbarians. The Silt Drake. They're monsters living in the silt, like the Silt Drake. And the Silt Horror. You know, you're trying to wade through the silt and suddenly tentacles come bursting up out of the silt. There's some encounter tables. Yeah, and so if you fight the dragon, yeah, you may be pretty powerful, but if you fight the dragon, then he's this. I told you how powerful he is, but if you manage to damage him bad enough, he's going to teleport away to where he's got a catch of any magic item, enough healing stuff to heal him up full, and any magic item you could name, he's got somewhere in his many, many catches of hidden magic items, and then he'll come back after you, armed with maybe a cloak of invisibility, maybe a wand of fire, who knows what he might have. So probably wondering what's in the sphere. I'm going to go ahead and reveal it. Spoiler. There was a being called Rajat. And long ago, thousands of years ago, when magic was first starting, he gathered together 12 followers. And these followers went on a genocidal war and exterminated many of the races that don't exist in Darksun. That's why they don't exist, because they were purposely exterminated. And then the 12 champions of Rajat turned on him and imprisoned him in this sphere. These 12 champions, became the Sorcerer Kings. And one of them grew to power to become the dragon. And so that leaves the other... What about the other 11 of them? Well, 7 of them rule cities in the Tablelands. And, one of them became the dragon, so that's... And one of the cities disappeared to Ravenloft. So, that leaves us with some more. There's some missing ones. Where could they be? And that ends my review of the Valley of Dust and Fire.